Good day. We are now on your last module for your Bacte Lab class. Our topic today is your bacteriological assay of drinking water. So the quality of water is free from physical, chemical, biological, bacteriological, and radiological impurities. For bacteriologic assay, our goal is to detect the indicator organisms, which are your coliforms. It is limited to the detection of E. coli rather than dangerous waterborne pathogens. What we use here is your statistical estimation, MPN, or your most probable number, to interpret your result. So what tests are we gonna do for this module? You have your presumptive test, confirmed test, and your completed test. These are the materials we need for this experiment. Your water sample, of course. We have your 5 fermentation tubes containing your 5 ml lactose broth, your 5 fermentation tubes containing 5 ml brilliant green bile broth, your EMB plates, and your IMVIC test. For your sample collection, what we use is your sterile container with your small mouth and with screw cap. Okay, it must be colorless or clear for us to see it properly. Before collecting, you have to wipe first your faucet and then apply a septic technique by using your alcohol lamp. So again, you have to sterilize it with the flame from your alcohol lamp, and you have to let the water flow for at least 1 to 2 minutes before collecting your sample. We now move on to your presumptive test. So what we need here is your lactose broth. You have to incubate it for 24 hours at 35 degrees. And your positive result would be your bubbles in your Durham tube. So if it is negative after 24 hours, you have to re-incubate it and then check again if there will be effervescence in your Durham tube. We use a pipette to collect 5 ml of your sample and then put it on your lactose broth. So this is an example of your lactose broth, and you have to make sure that each tube is labeled. In here you can see that after 24 hours, there is bubbles formed in your Durham tube, so this means that it is positive for gas. So again, if it's negative, you have to re-incubate it for 24 hours and then check again. Now we're done with your presumptive test. We now move on to your confirmed test. So in here, we use your brilliant green bile lactose broth. You incubate it again for 24 hours, and at the end of your 24 hours, you examine for your gas production at your Durham tube. Here's a photograph of your brilliant green bile lactose broth. So again, you have to label all these tubes. Now the sample we use here is from your presumptive test that turned positive. Again, the sample we use here is from your presumptive test that turned out to be positive. And of course, you have to observe proper aseptic technique during inoculation. Positive result after 24 hours would give you your effervescence or your bubble in your Durham tube. Again, if it is negative after 24 hours, you can re-incubate it for another 24 hours and then re-examine your tube. Now we move on to your final test, which is your completed test. We use here your EMB agar or your ethyl methylene blue agar, your IMVIC test also, which contains your indole, methyl red, Voges Proskauer, and your citrate. So again, after streaking, you have to incubate it for 35 degrees for 24 hours. Now in here you can see in your EMB plate, your colonies would be black with green metallic sheen. Okay, so this is very distinct for your E. coli. Now for your IMVIC, as we all know, or as I assume that you have memorized already, the IMVIC result of your E. coli would be indole positive, methyl red positive, your Voges-Proskauer and your citrate as negative. Another test that you can perform after all of these is your gram stain. So you get from your colony, and then you streak it on your slide, and then you do your gram stain. So what does your gram stain have? This is your crystal violet, your grams iodine, your alcohol, and your safranin. Okay? So E. coli would show gram-negative short rods or gram-negative bacilli. For the interpretation of your MPN results for 5 tubes, so if you have 2 positive tubes, your MPN per 100 ml of your sample would be 5.1. While if you have 4 positive tubes, your MPN per 100 ml would be 16.0.